Hi everyone, how's it going? Sorry, I gotta turn this down. I was watching an actor's talk. This is really good actually. But you guys know me. The only time when I actually come online is when I have something to complain about. 9 times out of 10, that's what I come online about. There's something that really angered and aggravated me, and I wanted to talk about it. I've talked about this subject before, but I'm gonna come at it in a new angle that only just occurred to me. So Jo Frost on her channel was talking about how spanking actively harms kids. It's been scientifically proven. There's all kinds of data to show exactly like how it harms kids. And once again, you've got people in the comments saying, oh, well, it never did me any harm. I learned to respect my parents. And I am usually on the side of I don't judge people on how they choose to process what they went through as children, because when you're a child and you are disciplined by having trauma reinforced to you, kind of stamping out your self-determination and stamping out your sense of self in order to discipline you, when that tactic is employed as a child, as an adult you do become brainwashed, like fully and actively brainwashed by your parents. It is true, that does happen. That's why I try not to judge anybody by how they perceive their own childhood. But then people start talking about how kids are unruly now, and and how that's as a direct result of children not being spanked. This is the problem that I have, right? I was spanked. It didn't happen often, but I was spanked, right? I was a chronic underachiever at school, at college, at university. I was the kind of person who constantly was re-traumatized over and over again. Fear was constantly used as a tool to discipline me, mostly by my family. If it wasn't spanking, which again didn't happen often, it was a lot of shouting, it was a lot of threats, it was a lot of all that type of stuff. And my parents in turn, well, I don't know about my mum, but I know about my dad. My dad in turn got corporal punishment a lot. A lot of the relatives did. Some got it worse than others, but a lot of the relatives got corporal punishment. So the thing is, right, you got corporal punishment as a kid, okay, and you got yelled at constantly as a kid. So you decided to pass that down to me. That's the first thing, is the transference of anger. The second thing is that 9 times out of 10, the people who talk about being spanked and what have you, or being abused as children, that kind of only do a lesser version of that with their own kids. If it works so well with you, why wouldn't you do the exact same thing with your kids? That's hole number one, right? Hole number two is not just my own experiences where spanking in my case turned me into a chronic underachiever. There's not just that example to work with. It's not even just the result of my family, everyone in my family and their crap and dysfunction. It's also I also have to consider the people who abused me. Now we got to get into that, because I was abused by several people, and I guarantee you at least one of them got their asses beat on the fucking regular. At least one of them was subjected to corporal punishment. So in terms of spanking not doing anyone any harm, that's hole number two, because these people who got their asses beat and then turned around and emotionally, physically and sexually abused me, a lot of them got corporal punishment. A lot of them actually did get corporal punishment, and it didn't stop them from abusing me. If anything, it reinforced the worst in them. It fed the darkness inside them that would make them turn around and abuse somebody who was vulnerable as a child and even as an adult. Corporal punishment helps? Are you fucking joking me? So that's hole number 2. Hole number 3 is this. In the 50s and 60s, we had adults that, you know, we had plenty of examples of domestic abuse, of husbands killing their wives. We had examples of rampant racism to the point where people were being hung and all that type of shit. I guarantee you, a lot of the people committing violence against people for their race, against people for their gender, against people for their sexuality, a lot of those people got corporal punishment. Don't tell me that's not the case. Because you know they fucking did. Because you know especially in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, regardless of whether the parents were white or black, they did not fucking play. And them schools didn't play either. Yet thanks to the spankings, you've got people who are pristine on the outside, don't talk back to their parents, and yet when it comes to them growing older and getting into relationships with people, they're killing their spouses. They're abusing their spouses. There's emotional, physical, and sexual abuse in romantic relationships. You've got people who have had their asses beat going to prison, committing crimes. Nobody ever thinks to make the correlation between corporal punishment and the fact that some of the times that our ancestors grew up in, especially in the 21st century, was some of the worst for civil and human rights. And somehow we want to go ahead and leave corporal punishment out of the conversation as if it didn't contribute to that shit. Man, when I tell you people don't use their fucking common sense, most of the people in this world are not good people. The people who say, oh, I respect my parents. Okay, do you respect other people? I guarantee you don't. I guarantee you many of the people who engage in corporal punishment, they know how to project a perfect image for the public. And then as soon as they get behind closed doors, they're a fucking mess. You see, me, I wear my mess on my sleeve. So when you see me evolve, I'm evolving for real. It's not a fucking game, all right? But most of the people who got corporal punishment, they're hygienic, their place is clean and tidy, they're organized, they know how to talk to people, they can carry jobs. But as soon as they come inside their house and close the door, they are a fucking mess. A lot of these people end up in mental health institutions. There are mental health institutions full of people who also got corporal punishment. We don't want to talk about that though. There are mental health hospitals filled with staff who I guarantee you got corporal punishment and turned around and transferred that anger onto the patients that they're supposed to look after. So don't fucking tell me it never did you any harm. It did everybody tremendous harm. And I bet these same people talking about not sparing the rod and spoil the child, I bet you have no emotional regulation. I bet you have no emotional boundaries. I bet you're the type of people who gives everything to everybody just so that you don't have to look after yourself. Because that's what happened to me to a lesser degree. That's what happened to me. Again, I usually don't talk about how victims choose to process their own pain. But you're literally in an age where you can educate yourself on the impact that you're making on other people through your life choices. You have the chance to educate yourself, to open your mind. We, especially here in the first world, here in Britain, in the US, China, Russia, because they're emerging capitalist societies now. You're living in an age where first world nations have the entire fucking world on their phones. You have all the information you need to be able to learn how to discipline a person without reinforcing the trauma that they're already going through, without reinforcing intergenerational trauma. We have the whole fucking world on our phones. And what do you choose to do? Stop it. Just stop it. You could have learned something new from Joe Frost. You could have learned something new from Super Nanny. But all of you could have learned something new. You could have used that as a learning opportunity and said to yourself, okay, maybe we need to chill when it comes to children. Maybe we just need to chill. You could have learned something from that and you chose fucking not to. Instead, you want to get up on your high horse out of defensiveness, espousing opinions that you don't even believe because you know they're fucking bullshit. You know they're bullshit. Don't come online with the whole never did me any harm bullshit. It did you tremendous harm. And when it did you tremendous harm, it did other people tremendous harm because you transferred that anger from what you went through onto other people. I guarantee you fucking did that. People always want to convince themselves that they're somehow better and worse than they actually are. And guess what? That reinforced dichotomy in people, in either believing that they're fucking gods or fucking insects, once again, that's down to the violence that is instilled in us, not only from an early age, but intergenerationally. And people just want to make excuses because they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work in breaking the cycle. They just want to be comfortable in their little fucking bubble. And in the meantime, we all cause one another pain because of it. This world operates through a hierarchy of violence. Let's be fucking real about the situation. And all we're taught is how to fuck somebody up as much as we possibly can, take as much as their shit as we possibly can so that we can make the rules. That has a knock-on effect that damages relationships and damages psyches all the fucking time. Corporal punishment plays into that. It is military training. It is defense training. You are teaching your children to be soldiers or workers or breeders and nothing more. Damn. Get a clue. Get a goddamn clue. Sick of this. And you know, all of you have been online and seen my videos about, me talking about certain kids, right? I'm not an angel. I've said some horrible shit. I've really said some awful shit. I can be mean. I can be mean sometimes. I can be horrible. But I try. I do try. And there are adults who are reveling, just reveling in the fact that they don't fucking try. Just reveling in it. And I will never understand that. How can you have so little respect for vulnerability, for softness, for gentleness? How can you have so little respect for our future that you think the only way to discipline people is to reinforce trauma just so that you can have an easy life? Garbage. If you can't handle kids, don't have them. Leave them. You know what? No. I take that back. I'm not going to say anything like that because this is what I realize. I realize that the majority of the world has kids because the majority of the world need to learn selflessness. That's what having children teaches you. It teaches you selflessness. If you ain't got no kids, from my perspective, I know I shouldn't say things like that because there are people who are, who can't have kids, who really, really want kids but can't have them, and, all that type of stuff. So what I'm saying is a generalization, but please don't take it as me being, trivializing the pain of people who want children but can't have them. Like, please don't take it as that. But for me, if you ain't got kids, that means that the relationship with yourself, from my mind, is the one that you need to work on. It's the one that you're supposed to work on. I feel like that is Spirit's way of telling you, if you ain't got no kids, then the relationship that you're supposed to focus on is the one with yourself. I believe that most of the world is out there having kids because Spirit is like, you need to learn how to be selfless. But unfortunately, a lot of parents don't learn that lesson. They don't learn the lesson of selflessness. Instead, they take their selfishness and they transfer it onto their fucking kids. They don't learn the lesson. Instead of thinking about what happens to their kids, they think about what would happen to them if something happened to their kids. Instead of understanding that, listen, I've conceived or given birth to a complete stranger that not only do I not know yet, but they don't know themselves yet. And I have the responsibility of helping them through everything that they're going through as they get to know me and themselves and the world. And they're like, not recognizing the huge responsibility in that, and not recognizing, more importantly, the way that it makes you feel. Of course, when you're in that situation and you're resting on your primal impulses, like any type of empathy goes out the window. It goes completely out the window. And you just end up fucking your kids up. Or fucking your younger relatives up, depending on. That's what having children is meant to teach you. It's meant to teach you empathy and selflessness, but people do not learn that lesson. Instead, they just transfer their bullshit rather than learning something. You have the opportunity to learn something. Kids have an emotional intelligence that we don't have. We're supposed to learn from them, but we don't. When a child is fucking throwing tantrums and acting a fucking fool, 9 times out of 10, it's because they're tired or hungry, or because they have emotions that they can't place, they don't know how to place, so they can't express it. And that maybe they're afraid that people won't understand or people will make fun of them. It's a delicate time. You don't know why they're acting up. They might even be acting up because of something that you fucking did. But instead of taking responsibility, no, just beat their ass. What the fuck is wrong with you? And I've had people telling me, I've said to people who have had worse spankings than me, right? I've said, you realize that isn't cool, right? Like for children to be spanked like that. And then they said, oh, it's because you haven't been beaten. Okay, so because I haven't had all the self-determination and personal identity beaten out of me as a kid, that's why I don't agree with you. These are the type of people who get spanked. This is the type of people they turn into as adults. They turn into the type of people who are resentful, who wish harm on other people's inner children and outer children. Sneaky, malevolent, Machiavellian in some cases. So how does corporal punishment, please explain to me how it does not do anyone any harm? Please explain that to me. And not to mention the lack of emotional boundaries. People that I notice get spanked, they put their all into a human being. They put their all into somebody or nothing into somebody. That's what I've observed in my life. Please explain to me how it's not doing any harm to anybody. We've got people out here who don't use their fucking brain worth of shit, who have been spanked. Most people are not good people, and most people throughout history have been spanked. Please explain to me how it's done our world any good. Please explain. And please explain why you think anybody would need any of those things to be a good and respectful person. Remember, I've had people who have abused me now. People who have abused me who got their asses beat. There are wives who have died at the hands of husbands that got their asses beat. There are wives who have died at the hands of... There are husbands who have died at the hands of wives that got their asses beat. There are serial killers who got their asses beat. Criminals, bank robbers got their asses beat. Serial abusers who got their asses beat. And abusive people in this world are actually more numerous than people who are not. Because I guarantee you, at some point, you fuck somebody over in your life. Most people are not good. And most people throughout history got their asses beat. Please explain to me. Please explain. There was an experiment done by Marina Abramovich. I think that's her name. And a lot of targeted individuals don't fuck with her because they believe that she is in the darker side of the occult. I believe that's actually entirely true. But there was an art installation that she did. The installation that she did was she stood in one place. I can't remember what gallery this was. This was decades ago when she was young. She stood in one place and didn't do anything, didn't say anything. And she let people do whatever they wanted to her. At first, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad at first. But then these people got progressively more violent. Started scratching at her, hitting her. Clothes were ripped off. This was not in a decade in which childcare had been permissive. These were not adults who had been given permissive childcare in their lives. I fucking guarantee it. You're talking about a woman who was completely brutalized by so-called civilized people who were raised right with corporal punishment. Now, not all of them got spanked, I know that. But a lot of them were. And that's what they turned into. But it never did us any harm. It never did people any harm. That's what we think. That's what we think. Really. That's what we really think out here. We really think that the corporal punishment don't do any harm. Yet it makes people do that. Sure. This world has been a violent, capitalist cesspit for... Thank you. Thank you. Hang on. That kind of broke my flow there. Hang on. But yeah, thank you to Cassandra Lynn. But you got to be kidding me. Like, why? To like, corporal punishment has turned this world into a violent, fucking capitalist cesspit. The hell are you talking about? Never did you any harm. Our children are valuable. Our children are valuable. And I'm not perfect. I've been incredibly mean when it comes to kids. Incredibly mean because of my own unresolved trauma. So I'm not a fucking angel. I'm not sitting here saying that I've never done anything wrong and I've never been a bitch. I'm not sitting here saying that. But when it comes to how we treat our future, have some fucking common sense. The Bible was created to keep you under control and to turn human society like many fucking holy books. It was created to turn society into fucking ant colonies. It was not created for your betterment or for the betterment of the world. It was created for the function of the society that we know today, and there's a big damn difference. I'm going to leave that link about Marina Abramovich and that installation that she did. And then we got to talk about the Stanford prison experiment. You think people in the Stanford prison experiment, you think some of them people didn't get whooped? I guarantee you they did. Sorry, larynx. I guarantee you they did. I guarantee you they did. But as long as it never did you any harm, right? I guarantee you it did you harm if you feel the need to fucking defend yourself, defend something you don't even believe. Leave kids alone. Or learn a fucking lesson. If they exist in your life, if you're blessed enough to have people come into this world who are a copy of you, you should be grateful and you should be respectful of those kids. Stop fucking around making excuses. And then in the same breath, you want to talk about nonsense and fucking pedos and shit like that. It's people like you who children cannot come to for solace. It's people like you that will throw them kids out to the wolves. Don't fuck with me. The amount of people who got their asses beat. How many of those children got abused by pastors because them parents who beat their ass weren't looking? Please stop it. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Leave kids the fuck alone. Or learn to empathize. Learn a fucking lesson. Learn a fucking lesson. And for anybody who's telling me, oh, leave people alone to what they do. No, fuck you. Somebody's got to protect our future. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to say something. And if it's already been said, it needs fucking repeating. Either leave them kids alone or try to empathize. Try to do fucking better. And stop thinking about what would happen to you if something happened to them. Think about what would happen to them physically and emotionally. Put yourself in their fucking shoes. Damn. Again, I've said this before. I've said this when it comes to gang stalking, right? I've said that when you hurt someone, you don't just hurt them. The amount of hurt that I have inflicted on people because I was spanked, because my emotions were invalidated. How many people have I hurt because of that? And then in turn, how many people have I hurt that have gone on to hurt someone else because of what I did? When you abuse somebody, it doesn't just hurt you. Like, do you people not understand that? Fuck. Just ridiculous. This like just think that fucking like most people are just emotionally stunted idiots. And I have a hard time with it sometimes. I'm going to leave that link with Marina Abramovich and the link with the Stanford prison experiment. And note the decades in which both those events took place. It was a time where it was okay to spank your kids. Please note whether or not that corporal punishment did people good. Look at that behavior and then come back to me and tell me whether it did good or not. Hell, look at the civil rights movement in America. Look at the apartheid in America and tell me corporal punishment did a body good. Get the fuck out of here.